We don't have a skilled labor shortage. What we have is a productivity crisis. Let me explain. This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com and ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help you, the construction business owner and leader, eliminate chaos and maximize profits in your business. As I said at the top of this podcast, I don't think we have a skilled labor shortage. What we have is a productivity crisis. And there's something else that I believe is at the root cause of this, but we don't have time to get into that today. So we're going to attack the productivity crisis on construction job sites. Now, I've been around construction sites since 1995. I've seen some good sites, I've seen some bad sites, I've seen productive crews, I've seen a lot of non-productive crews. So here's what you're going to get out of this podcast. This is a replay. It's the audio replay of just one of the modules from a masterclass on maximizing bottom line profits that my good friend Spencer Paget and I put together that I'll tell you some more details about. But here's what you're going to get out of this. You're going to learn how productivity problems aren't really problems at all. They're actually something else. You'll also find a dead simple but incredibly powerful strategy that you can use to find the root cause of any issue that you're dealing with. You'll also get some advice from my old college professor, Dr. Wu. You'll learn about mental malware. That's right, mental malware. And then you'll find out about the surprising effect that your mindset has on their productivity. So stick around till the end if you want to get your hands on my free guide of the 32 productivity hacks that you can use to maximize the productivity and profitability of your crews. I'll tell you how to get that at the end of this podcast. So here we go. Here's the replay of one of the modules from the masterclass that my good friend Spencer Paget and I put together. Enjoy. This is Todd DeWalt, and we're back with module number 3, how to maximize productivity at the job site. This module is going to be set up a little bit differently. I'm going to spend some time talking about some big picture stuff that is really foundational to improving productivity. Then I'm going to get into some tactical things that you can do to boost productivity at your job sites, whether you use trade partners for 100% of your work or if you self-perform 100% of your work, or if you're somewhere in between. And then Spencer Paget is going to close out this module showing you how you can harness the power of co-construct to boost productivity from wherever you are in the country, and then some tactical things you can do at the job site with boots on the ground. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some of the productivity problems, and I have that in quotes for a reason. Some of the most common productivity problems are lost time at the job sites. People standing around waiting for information, for materials, for equipment, direction, etc. Wasted time, downtime, stolen time, getting paid for work that wasn't done. That's a big killer. Materials. A 2012 study was done, and a couple of 100 project managers and business owners were interviewed and found that the number one productivity killer was the lack of materials at the job site. Ultimately, a lot of productivity problems are rooted in poor planning. Some people would say that workers are just not motivated. People on the job site aren't taking ownership. My people don't take ownership. My people at the job site make too many mistakes, and there's too much rework. Rework is a big profit bleed. Speaking of profit bleeds, let's talk about what poor productivity looks like. How much is poor productivity or lost productivity, some combination of what we just talked about, costing you? Let's look at an example. Let's say you have 5 employees and they're losing 15 minutes a day, either lost time, wasted time, doing rework, waiting for information, spending too much time at the shop, whatever the case may be, 15 minutes a day. Let's say your average cost for labor with fringes, matching taxes, everything all in is $30 an hour. That's $9,375 per year. So every 15 minutes for 5 employees is costing $9,300 a year. And I can tell you the typical construction worker is losing a lot more than 15 minutes a day in wasted time, lost time, shop time, stolen time, etc. So this is a big, big deal. And this is bad news, but it's also good news. It's bad news in that this is a big problem, but the good news is you can make some simple adjustments that we're going to talk about in this module to dramatically improve productivity and cut these profit bleeds. So you can see that lost productivity or poor productivity is a big problem, but it's actually not the first problem that we need to solve. The first problem that we need to solve is to realize that you don't really know what the problem is. Let me explain. Let me take you back to my college days. I had a professor named Dr. Wu, and he stood in front of this class of aspiring college engineering students, and he put his hand on his hip and he pointed his finger at us and said, "You guys are not that smart. You guys are not that smart. You're engineers. You're not doctors. Your job is not to be creative. Your job is to find the right formula and turn the crank. Find the right formula and turn the crank. Find the right formula and turn the crank." He said that hundreds of times. And he actually said it so many times that I would hear myself saying that in a Korean accent when I did my homework. But he was really true. It was great advice. Find the right formula, turn the crank. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to go find new ways of doing things every time a situation comes up. So here's a formula, a very simple but very powerful formula for solving problems. Step number one is to identify the symptoms. What is not working well? Now, a lot of people stop right here and they jump straight to step number three, which is to implement a solution. But there's a second step in the middle that will actually help you solve your problems and make them go away. So step number two is to find the root cause. Don't treat the symptoms, find the root cause. In a minute, I'll explain why treating the symptoms can actually be pretty devastating and cause you more trouble than you actually were in before. So let's talk about a super powerful, super simple method for doing root cause analysis. And this comes out of the manufacturing world where they do root cause analysis all the time. This method is called the 5 whys method. Step number one is to identify the abnormal condition at the top. What's screwed up? What is the symptom? What is not working well? And then ask the question, why? Why did this occur? And then you come up with an answer. And then you ask, well, why did that occur? And then you just keep asking, well, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Until you can't come up with any more answers. And at that point, you have arrived at the root cause. Now, is there anything magical about 5? No, but you may ask why twice. It may take 7, but if you keep asking why, you will get to the root cause. So let's run through an example specific to this module, low productivity, and find out what are some potential root causes of low productivity that could be a little bit surprising. So our abnormal condition is our productivity sucks. The guys and gals at the job site aren't getting work done. Well, why is that? Well, the material wasn't there. The lumber didn't get delivered on time. The trim, the Simpson tie, accessories, whatever it was, they didn't show up. We had a lack of material. Why was there a lack of material? Well, it wasn't delivered on time. Why wasn't it delivered on time? Because it was ordered late. Why was it ordered late? Because the foreman didn't know that they were supposed to order it. Why didn't they know? Because of a bad handoff. Bad handoff. So, again, nailing the handoff is huge. We'll talk some more about that in this situation. But let's take a moment and talk about what does treating the symptoms of low productivity look like. All right? So the symptom here is low productivity. The work, we're not hitting our numbers. It's taking too long to get the job done. Treating the symptoms looks something like calling the people on the job site, walking out on the job site and saying something like, "You guys are taking too long. You guys need to work longer. You guys need to work harder. You guys need to work weekends. You guys need to work overtime. You guys need to get your head out of your bleep, whatever the case may be. But that's what treating the symptoms looks like. But do the people in the field have anything to do with the actual root cause of the low productivity? No. So what happens when you treat the symptoms? When you go out and yell at the people in the field, how does that make them feel? And then what are they going to do? I can tell you right now, in today's climate, there are plenty of other employers who would like to have warm bodies on their job site. And it's very possible that if you are hammering the people at the job site for symptoms that they are not responsible for, it could make things worse. You could lose good people because you're treating the symptoms. So if you want these symptoms to go away, go nail the handoff. Let's look at a couple of other examples. As I've talked to hundreds of construction business owners, the root causes of problems can often be a little bit counterintuitive. So, for example, some people find themselves in a cash flow crunch. That's the issue. That's the symptom. Well, why did that occur? Well, we don't have enough work. Why don't we have enough work? Because we're not getting enough contracts signed. Why is that? Because we're not bidding on enough projects. Why is that? Because I'm spending too much time in the field. Why am I spending too much time in the field? Because I suck at delegation. So poor delegation can be the root cause of cash flow crunch. Let's look at a couple of other options. I'm spending too much time in the field because fear of failure. I'm spending too much time in the field because fear of success. What's going to happen if this thing grows to the point where I can't handle it? Another potential root cause, we're not bidding enough work because I have shiny object syndrome. I'm chasing little shiny pieces of paper and little opportunities of a lifetime that float across my desk because I have a lack of focus. So as you can see, this root cause analysis method called the 5 Whys method is incredibly powerful, and you can use this, or actually I'm going to challenge you to use this at the end of this video. So here's what I found. If you think about the symptoms of the bad symptoms of your business, these are some of the most common things that I hear from business owners and leaders. There's chaos in the business. Their backlog is not where they need to be. They feel stuck. Their cash flow is not good. They don't have time. They have high turnover. They're frustrated. Financials aren't right. The financials aren't good enough. They're dealing with burnout. They're dealing with anxiety. And those are all symptoms, and you can try to deal and try to treat those symptoms, and you might have some success. But I'm telling you, if you really want to make these symptoms go away, if you want to produce better fruit from your tree instead of producing this toxic stuff from this tree, you want to treat the root causes. And I can tell you the good news and the bad news is that you are the root cause of a lot of your problems. So that's why we're going to talk about you. We're going to start this conversation about productivity in a little bit of a counterintuitive way and talk about you, because there's one thing that you have the most influence or control over, and that's you. You may not be able to control everything else, but you can control you. A few years ago, I was traveling, woke up in my hotel room, looked at my phone, and I had an email that said, "Hey, Todd, not sure if you knew this or not, but your website is down," which caused a little bit of panic for me. And I found out that my website had been hacked. And these hackers had infiltrated my website, and they had, as I came to find out months later, after spending lots of time and money trying to get it fixed, trying to deal with the symptoms, I found out that the root problem was they had installed a website inside a website. And it was just designed to cause problems, did nothing but cause problems. And I threw money at different developers to try to solve this problem, and I could make the symptoms go away, but they always came back because the root cause was there was a website inside my website running code, running processes designed to cause problems, and I didn't know about it. And nothing I did would solve the issue until I got to that malware, this code that had been written that was running underneath the surface that wasn't visible, that was causing problems. And here's the thing. You have malware running in your brain, and a lot of the symptoms that you're dealing with are because of the malware. And this is good news, this is bad news. The bad news is you could be the problem, but the good news is you could be the problem. And simply by adjusting and eliminating this malware, changing these processes and these thought patterns that are running below the surface, you can see dramatic improvements. One of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain, who says this: "It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." Think about that. It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. So what I found is that we have these thinking traps. Some of the mental malware that we have are thinking traps. These are ways of thinking that we fall into. Psychologists would call them cognitive biases. And here are a couple of examples. Anchoring. And these are not specific to construction business owners. They're general to anybody with a human brain. We have these tendencies. And one of them is anchoring, which means we put way too much emphasis on the first piece of information that we hear. And we often use this against ourselves when we negotiate. Effective salespeople use anchoring against us. You can actually use anchoring for yourself, but it's a cognitive bias. It's a thinking trap. So the way this works is somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to do this project. My budget is $245,000. And they give you some scope of work that is $375,000. You have been anchored to that budget, and if you're not careful, you will try to bring that project in at their budget. So that's what anchoring looks like. Another one is confirmation bias, which is only looking for things that line up with what we already believe. If we believe somebody is a good employee, then we will only see the good. If we believe somebody's a bad employee, we'll only see the bad. Here's another one, is the sunk cost bias. Throwing good money after bad. Once we've invested time or energy or money into something, we're much more likely to continue throwing good time or good money or good energy after something long after it becomes a good investment. Another one is just wild speculation, listening to the story in our head and not making decisions based on facts. If you want to do a deep dive into thinking traps, then you can just look up cognitive bias, or you can listen to episode 82 of my podcast. It's the Construction Leading Edge podcast. Episode 82 is a review of 37 habits of self-destructive people. And you'll get a deep dive into what I've found to be some of the most self-destructive habits, specifically that construction business owners have. It's a little bit like a colonoscopy, but it's not comfortable, but it's going to be helpful. Okay. Have you ever coached a youth team or been around young kids trying to learn something new? If so, you've probably heard them use the C word when they've been challenged to do something new. That's can't. I can't do it. I can't change. I can't learn. The C word is a symptom of a fixed mindset. And there are two types of mindsets that we'll talk about briefly. One is the fixed mindset, and here's what that sounds like. Failure is the limit of my abilities. I'm either good at it or I'm not. My potential is predetermined. People with a fixed mindset believe they were either born with it or they weren't, that it's genetic, like eye color or height. It's not something that they can change. People with a growth mindset think differently. They believe, hey, failure is an opportunity to grow. I can learn to do anything that I want. Challenges are good because they help me to grow. I like to try new things. So you can see the contrast between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Here are a few other typical symptoms or responses. And as we go through this, I want you to think about yourself and then also think about some of the people on your team. The fixed mindset, having a fixed mindset makes people look at things differently. So, for example, challenges. People with a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges. They give up easily when they run into obstacles because they're all about looking smart. People with a growth mindset embrace challenges, and they tend to persist in the face of setbacks because their mindset leads to a desire to learn. They're all about learning new things, and they understand that they can learn new things. The fixed mindset sees effort as fruitless. Why bother? Because training and working at something, it's not going to matter because you're either born with it or you're not. They do not like criticism, and they are threatened by the success of other people. Have you ever been around those folks, or are you one of those folks? Contrast that to the growth mindset. They see that effort is the path to mastery. They learn from criticism. Feedback is the breakfast of champions, and they find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. They're not threatened by the success of others. And I can tell you that if you have a fixed mindset, or someone with a fixed mindset will not try to change because they don't believe it's possible. They will not invest in a training program because they don't believe it's possible. One of the reasons that the fixed mindset is so toxic for leaders specifically is the fixed mindset will put people in a box. They extend or they project that fixed mindset onto other people, and they don't believe that people can change. They also don't believe that people can grow and be groomed into new roles. So they keep people down. In a nutshell, leaders with a fixed mindset are very dangerous because they hold people down and they are threatened by their success. So it's very important to identify your own mindset, develop a growth mindset, and then look for leaders who have a growth mindset. Let's talk about action items. Take a few minutes and think about this. Number one, I want you to pick one symptom, one abnormal condition, one thing that's screwed up, that's not going well in your business, and go through the 5 whys. Identify the condition and then ask, why is this? Why is that? Why is that? And get to the root cause. You can do this by yourself. It's also really effective to do this with your team. Do this with your team. Number 2, think about this. Where do you tend to have a fixed mindset toward yourself? And a fixed mindset sounds like, I can't, I'm only, I always, I never. Think about that. Where do you tend to have a fixed mindset toward yourself? And one thing that will help you do that is to go download the vision and direction guide that's in the member area. If you go up to the getting started area of this masterclass, you'll find a vision and direction guide. Print that out or go through it and specifically look at pages 7 and 8. It talks about mindset. So take a few minutes, go through pages 7 and 8 of the vision and direction guide. And then lastly, think about this question. Spend some time and think about, where do you have a fixed mindset toward others? It could be your employees. Do you tend to put people in a box, or how do you tend to put people in a box? It could be toward your kids or toward your spouse. It could be toward anybody else, toward trade partners. Where do you tend to have a fixed mindset toward other people? Take a few minutes. Spend some time working on these action items because I'm telling you, they are foundational. They'll change your life, and they're really foundational to improving the productivity of the folks on your job site. As a bonus, you can go listen to episode number 82 of the Construction Leading Edge podcast, and that's where you'll hear the deep dive on 37 habits of self-destructive people. What's next? Module 3.2 is coming up next, where you'll learn some simple adjustments that you can make to your operation. Here's some interesting stories to demonstrate what those simple adjustments can look like to have dramatic improvements in your business. See you in the next video. All right, there you go. If you want to get your hands on my 32 productivity hacks that will help you boost the productivity and the profitability of your crews on your job sites, then just go to buildermasterclass.com. You can also get my free guide on how to optimize your overhead. You'll also be able to get some more details on the Co-Construct Masterclass that Spencer Paget and I put together. And here are just a few things that some of the builders said after going through the masterclass. This masterclass is different from any other training I've ever done. I'm really enjoying it. That's from Aaron. Kip said, it's more than just a masterclass in Co-Construct. It will make you a better builder. Benjamin said, it's like years worth of job experience in 6 weeks. Sean said, already recouped the value and not even halfway through. You'll also be able to hear from Dan Duvall, longtime custom home builder, in fact, 25 years. He'll give you his advice after going through the Co-Construct Masterclass. So here's what you're going to get in the Masterclass if you're wondering, what is this Masterclass all about? Here's just a sample of what you're going to learn: how to nail the handoff from the office to the job site, how to reduce schedule overruns, how to eliminate unsolicited charity so you get paid for everything you do. As we talked about in this podcast, how to boost productivity of your crews in the field, how to sell at higher margins. Inside this masterclass, there's basically an entire masterclass on how to set up trade partner operations, on how to use subcontractors. And then ultimately, what this is all about is eliminating chaos and maximizing profitability of your business. So go to buildermasterclass.com, get your free guide, 32 productivity hacks that you can use. You'll also be able to get the Optimize Your Overhead guide, and you can find out some details and hear what Dan Duvall said about the Co-Construct Masterclass. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate the ratings, the reviews, the feedback. If you could take a few minutes and share this podcast with somebody who might get some value out of it, or leave a rating or a review, I would greatly appreciate it. That helps get the word out there. As always, thanks for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.